Hello, and welcome to Candidates Forum 2021. My name is Ed Miller. I'm your host, and we are pleased to have in studio with us today Bri Nichols, candidate for Ward 7. Bri, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you'd be a good choice for Ward 7.
So I'm a 25-year-old candidate, and I believe that it's very important to start my political trail now. And when I say this, I say it because it's time to see people my age who are actually engaged in the things that matter surrounding where funds are allocated in our community, who we are electing into office, and really getting a chance to know those people so that we know who is representing us. So I believe myself to be a great candidate because I have been active in the community of Brockton for some time now, as well as I am open to learning and growing with the community to ensure that I'm showing up for what is needed here in Brockton.
And what do you believe is the most important issue in your ward today?
Today, the most important issue in my ward is the water quality, as well as from hearing from constituents, the roads. Ward 7 has a lot of roads that are cracked and bumpy, a lot of potholes, and it's quite frankly disturbing to the residents of Ward 7, and that has been one of the chief complaints.
Okay. And as a counselor, you'll be required to vote on a lot of bills that come through. How would you vote if a vote comes up that may help the city but not popular in Ward 7?
So as a counselor, it would be my responsibility to inform my constituents, my neighbors who are going to be impacted by that most, what the different decisions are and what the intended outcomes could be. The best thing we could do would be to create a decision tree to show, this is what we're looking to do. This is how it would potentially, benefit you or not. Weighing out the pros and cons and then allowing the people of Ward 7 to have their voices heard. And sometimes that will include voting against things that may be beneficial to the city, but I'm intended to represent the neighbors of Ward 7.
Okay. Now, 3 years ago, the city entered a trash containing contract. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not in the councilor's purview to work on the contract, but it will be something you will have to deal with. Right now, the trash containers, the complaint is that they're so small that even a family of two have an overflow. The other issue is they're forced to buy the Brockton bags, which is 4 for $5, which even that went up 25%, but is a 350% rise in cost if they just bought regular trash bags. What are some of the issues and what are some of the ideas you may have that will help the people in your ward and the people of the city?
So first, one of the main things that we could look to do is increase our eco footprint, we need to look towards recycling more, which would reduce significantly the trash waste that we have, as well as listening to people who are saying, hey, we have a family of two and these cans are small. Is there a way that, even though it wouldn't be in my purview, would it be something that I could advocate for, bring back options that are alternatives to both neighbors as well as the people who I'd be working with on the council?
Mm-hmm. Another issue is small businesses that are trying to navigate through City Hall. Many of them saying, especially first-time small business owners can barely get through. And many of the contractors have said, if it takes me days to get a license in a other city, it takes me weeks here. If it takes weeks, it takes me months. Do you have any ideas, and how would you help businesses that want to open in your ward and through Brockton to make it quicker and more cost efficient for them wanting to open up in the city?
So I have personally experienced the hardships of going into the different offices within the city to figure out how to start a business. That didn't stop me, however, it does take quite longer than it does from what I've heard in other cities. One thing that we could definitely do is improve the communications between counselors and their neighbors. If you are intended to represent someone, you should be making sure that you're not just listening when they have a problem, but also reaching out to check in and ensure that things are running smoothly. So in reference to that, I would ensure that we're making open door process for people to come and say, hey, you know, what is the step-by-step, as well as I've been informed today that BCA has a large amount of space that is available to the public and Brockton residents here. This space can be utilized to also bring people here to inform them, do trainings on their different options, as well as just keeping that information clear, concise, and one centralized place for people.
And currently, the city council seat is a 2-year term. Do you feel that the city should consider of making it a 4-year term? Also, the city councils are part-time employees, but do a full-time job. And we are a city of 105,000 people. We're a growing mid-sized city. Do you feel that the 2-year terms is enough, or go to 4 years? And do you feel part-time is fine, or should we go to full-time?
So what I've heard from some counselors who have previously sat, as well as others, is that there's not enough that can really be done in 2 years. It got explained to me that you were campaigning to get into office for a large period of time. Once elected, you're in office, you're learning what it is that, you know, is the lay of the land there. And then by the time you hit that second year, it's time for you to start, you know, seeking either re-election or seeing if this is something that you're going to continue to go forward with. So I believe that it should be extended to a longer term so that people have a longer window to be more effective. As well as I believe that there should also we should look to see if there should be term limits on the current sitting councilors. I think it's, you know, goes on both ends. We may need people to sit longer to be able to be more effective, but we also may need to put a cap on how long you're able to sit if you have not shown a track record of being effective.
Now, you mentioned term limits. Don't you feel that people who are on the city council are getting the experience, and don't you feel that the term limit should be the constituents voting and maybe voting someone out if they're not doing a good job?
Now, that absolutely is part of that term limit, is seeing if people are voting to re-elect people or not. However, I believe that when we're talking about term limits, yes, people in office for a lot of years are learning and gaining the necessary experience. But I believe that there should also be programs that are put in place for counselors who are newly seeking office to be mentored by those people so that they're able to learn, you know, not while they're in office trying to figure it out, but having programs that really prepare people for what this actually looks like prior to seeking office.
And as a city councilor, do you also feel the mayor should be 4 years or stay 2 years?
I believe the mayor could do 4 years as well. We have presidents that sit for 4-year terms. I believe we could align with that model and allow mayors to really have a time of effectiveness. However, as you stated, people have continued to re-elect some mayors, which gives them more than that 2-year term to continue what they have planned.
Okay, well, thank you for coming in. We have a few minutes, so why don't you just talk to your constituents and let them know this is why they should be voting for Bri Nichols to be the councilor of Ward 7.
So I am, again, as I've stated, a 25-year-old candidate, and I have experienced the hardships of homelessness in the city. I've been an at-risk youth. I have had my run-ins with the law, but that has not stopped me from rehabilitating myself, taking accountability for things that I've done wrong to be able to right them, as well as seeking to help others in that process. The power of advocacy starts with someone who has real-life experience to be able to help you in that next step. So I believe strongly that I will be able to be the most progressive candidate to bring Brockton to that greatness that it has and push that forward.
Okay. I do have one more question.
Yes, sir.
What recommendations would you make as a city council to help the city move forward?
So one recommendation is definitely that we need an auditor in the city and an assistant auditor at all times. We need to make sure that our funds are being looked over. I know that currently the American government at large is risking passing some threat thresholds as soon as October 18th. It is important for us as local municipalities to also be cognizant of threat thresholds, and not just the people who are in office, but the people who are voting. We need not to just vote for loyalty and vote because we have a friend who's in office, but we need to vote because the person is informed about what it is that we need to progress as a city.
Okay. Well, Bri Nichols, running for council of Ward 7, thank you for coming down today.
Thank you for having me.
That's all the time we have, but thank you for talking to your constituents and getting the information out why you may be the best person. And remember, on November 2nd is Election Day. That is the day we have to get out there and choose who we want to represent us. It's your job. It's the hardest job that we have running our government, but we need the right people. It's up to you, so remember, November 2nd, Election Day for the city of Brockton. My name is Ed Miller, and I appreciate your time.